I have a couple questions. Are you finished? Tim, do you feel safe at school?
Yeah. For the most part, yeah.
You like school pretty much? And we did get a progress report on this. I mean, because of the intervention report, I feel like we have a really good illustration of the progress he was making at the end of the year. So I'm very proud of you. It was really amazing how quickly you could bring your grades up. It was pretty awesome. That when you stayed task, it was pretty cool. From the questioning that Mr. Spence, some of the questions, some of the answers you were given, you respect your mom at a very high level, and there's no mouthing off.
Every now and again.
Maybe a little.
But not like that. I don't
And what's the difference?
Like I just don't do that to my mom. My teacher, I guess, I don't know, if I'm at school and then the teacher just kind of in my ear, and I just feel like sometimes I can be a little more free with it, but then I realize I gotta catch myself and just kind of realize, well, what if she was my mom? I wouldn't want to treat her like that. So after this situation, I had a lot of time to think, and I said, no more. I'm not ever doing that again. But occasionally I do kind of mouth off, maybe, I don't feel like doing this, or something like that, but not to that extent.
So, the administration didn't act seriously with the first, the second, or the third. And mouthy threats, I think, I determine it maybe our expectations. I think your mother has very high expectations of your behavior, and I think Okemos Schools has the same high expectations of behavior. And I think that's just kind of the way the Okemos schools are, and to create that safety and that safe environment. I believe we treat each other with respect. We are kind to one another, and the student code of conduct is very clear on a lot of what we expect our students' behavior to be, to treat each other. I just wanted to make sure you understood that. I mean, it seems like you know the difference. Yeah.
Especially.
So my question is, if you took the administration, the fourth infraction or the fourth episode, or to act upon this, and did you have some? How did you feel after the first one in November?
The first one,
you were suspended for a couple of days?
I thought about it and I said, just want to do that again. I guess some time went by from it, and then it kind of just happened again when I started.
This course of pursuing additional medical information, I need to get clarity on where it is, what in the line of proceedings, these proceedings, that would land us. How beneficial would that be? Are you with me?
I am with you.
So if you would provide clarity for that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your question came from Mr. Spence's question.
Exactly.
If this medical documentation of ADHD were to appear, is that what you're referring to?
Sure.
Okay. And it would to appear to Okemos because he's still enrolled as a student at Okemos. Okay. And it would be presented to Okemos. In my opinion, the process would then be to take that information to the MET, the multidisciplinary evaluation team that determined eligibility, to revisit the OHI, otherwise health impaired, eligibility category. It does not affect the EI piece. It's the OHI piece, otherwise health impaired. Yeah, okay. And then that additional information, the MET team would then determine, does this now meet the criteria for eligibility under ADHD? Yes or no? I think they telegraphed from my read of the document that the answer would be yes.
I agree.
That's a telegraph, but I can't, they're the only ones that make that conclusion. So that's how I will characterize it, as a telegraph. Then, assuming they determine that eligibility status, and now we know that this student has ADHD, if he had it as of the date of the diagnosis, assuming it's fairly recent, in the next week or so, it's very, medically, I think we presume he had ADHD on May 22nd. Okay? So then, in my opinion, the manifestation determination review team would need to reconvene with this updated information. And then the team would be asked the same two questions that were posed with the previous. Was the conduct, was it substantially related to the disability? Well, we know the answer to that in terms of math learning disability is no. We don't know what the team's answer will be for ADHD. It still could be no. It also could be yes. And I can't speculate, nor should anyone speculate. But the process tells us the question should be asked. And that is how I would advise the district. So then, there's still one more step here. It's kind of like a Rube Goldberg contraption. If the answer from the team, manifestation determination review team, is no, then the general ed process, which is what you're doing right now, is appropriate. If the team determined yes, the conduct is a manifestation of his disability because it's substantially related, then we know that the removal is limited to 10 days, which is the period of time for the suspension. And an expulsion would not be permitted as a matter of law. Did I answer your question?
I would need, if you don't mind me following up. So, if I remember Mr. Spence's course of questions, how does that affect the decisioning that we are making, that we are being asked to make tonight?
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's a good follow-up question. Because Mr. Spence posed the question of, well, if this shows up later, can he be reinstated? And that's not automatic. It's the process I just described. But here it is, 10:23 p.m., and we don't have that. The team didn't make that decision. And the issue before you as the Board of Education is, did the conduct occur, and if so, what are the appropriate consequences? So, we don't have a medical documentation. That's why it's appropriate for you to go forward, unless you were inclined, based on any kind of representation from the parent, that they are going to provide that, because it hasn't been provided.
She's another question. So, Ms. Swain, I tried to initiate this line of discussion much earlier in the process, even before the Stewart family began to present their position and case, and we essentially said it wasn't even up for discussion because it was not within the purview of this august body to even consider. Is that still
an accurate statement.
is that still the case? Because we're having that conversation now.
It is not the Board of Education's decision to make manifestation determination or any special education related decisions. This question is very different than the series of questions that you posed. This question is predicated specifically on the point that Mr. Spence made. If the medical documentation was provided, that's the distinction.
Well, to some degree, because my point was whether or not there should have been an attempt at the medical determination that there were other indications beyond the deficiency of math. And
I would like to.
And Board Member Lynn has asked a very good question along the same lines, basically, that I was asking. The approach was very different. I have very serious concerns as a board member. And the board can choose to do whatever it does. Typically, you go against my recommendations. Let me just say this. Right? I've been director of the state juvenile justice system and negotiated a consent decree with the United States Department of Justice against W.J. Maxey Boys Training School that focused specifically on some of these issues and some of these areas. So I'm not looking at this from a layman's perspective. And we have some very serious issues here. Some of the discussions that we've had, some of the issues that have been opened up, whether or not the manifestation hearing needs to occur, should it have occurred. We are skating on very thin ice here at 10:30 in the evening. And one thing I agree with you on, Board Member Lynn, is that, and I don't think we can't even go into closed session. But I'm very concerned from a legal perspective about what I'm hearing here and what any action we take tonight might have long term on this board. That's my duty as a board member to say that, and I've said it. I'm done.
Mr. Merrill has something to say in response to Mr. Sharp's comment.
We are like way off the agenda. I'm just really concerned. If you'd like to make a quick statement.
There has been discussion with Mrs. Stewart about the testing aspect outside of what the school can provide to see if Tim has other issues that he's dealing with. Numerous discussions with her counselor. Sorry. I've had a discussion with her. I've had a discussion with him. And so it has been brought up, and she has always felt we should try other things, and we've done everything, try other things. So I do want you to know that those conversations have taken place. The counselor has been part of those conversations. I have been part of those conversations. Tim and I have been part of those conversations in my office. And so,
Does that clarify anything for you that the suggestion has been made to the family for testing beyond what the school can legally provide? It has been suggested to the family to get testing. Does that satisfy? Because when you say something like you were concerned about our fiduciary responsibility as a board, it concerns me that I hear that we have legally abided by everything that we are supposed to do as a school district in our purview. Okay. Now, if the student and the family have not gotten the medical diagnosis, there's nothing that we can do legally, or the school can do legally. The board, is. So I'm just. Is that clarifying to you, or is there something that is still missing?
With all due respect, I don't need clarification. My duty and responsibility is to the district, and I hesitate to answer your question for the benefit of the district. And if you want me to answer it, I can answer it. But do you want me to place the district in harm's way? Because that is what I would be doing.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking me to do?
I'm not asking you to put the district in harm's way. No, Mr. Sharp, certainly I am not.
And the district, from my perspective, at this point, is in harm's way. We have to. We have not exhausted the process that we have detailed here yet, and it's 10:30. And at some point, we're going to have to come to some resolution. I just say to you that I'm concerned.
Okay.
I'd like to ask just one question. Ms. Swim, as an attorney with a legal background and recognizing, where we've been and the recommendation in front of the board, do you, as the board's attorney, believe that we are in legal, we're doing anything that's legally incorrect or puts this district in harm's way?
Not based on, the answer is no, based on all the information that's been shared with me at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, and let's continue. Now, where we are, Mr. Spence, is it appears as though you're still in the questioning of the district. If you would like to make a statement, or if you would like to give Tim or any of the family members an opportunity to talk on the student's behalf, that would be beneficial. And then the board will have an opportunity to question the student and or his representatives after a statement has been made.
Now, if you question my client, I'll get you to do a follow-up questioning. Otherwise, I'll give it right to you now.
We just, sometimes we just like to hear from the students.
I can ask questions because I think I can get the answers out better.
It's the student's representative's opportunity to state your case.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you're going to question my client, I might as well be the one to do it.
Well, let us make that decision.
Usually our role is to ask clarifying questions after the family this represents its side.
Right, so I can make clarifying statements after you make yours, right? Clarifying question. In other words, if you ask the question wrong, you're dealing here with a 16-year-old kid that you all recognize to be what I characterize as special ed. And depending on how the question is asked, especially since you seem to be asking in terms of legal concepts, it may need to be clarified because he may not understand what you're asking.
I guess I would, if I may, prefer you to ask questions of the student first, and then if we need clarification after that, then we can do that. But we generally are a little bit informal on the give and take about
this is really an opportunity for us to get to know the student to hear from him himself. We have not had that opportunity prior to this evening.
I see.
So this is, we care for each and every one of our kids here, and because we don't always have an opportunity to meet each and every one of them, and unfortunately, sometimes we have to come to this room to meet them.
On the way out. Possibly. Okay. Well, I will ask.
So if you would like to make your statement, if you would like to tell us.
I make my statement before you do your clarify. I'm just trying to.
Yes.
So this is essentially my closing statement?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just make a statement and ask my client a couple of questions because it's a new procedure to me. My statement is this. The parent has offered to voluntarily take the kid out of the system. He is residing presently in Holt and expects to enroll in Holt in the fall. And in this setting, Ms. Swim is probably is it inappropriate to indicate what I had offered earlier?
You can tell the board whatever you would wish to say.
Right, I mean in terms of our discussion.
I don't think that, I think you should just talk to the board and not reference our discussion.
Okay,
Please.
all right, fine. He's a typical mouthy kid. He's a typical mouthy black kid coming from a certain culture and a certain perspective. We could sit here and argue about what was said and why it was said. I'm going to ask him what his intent was, because he thinks differently probably than you do. And he probably expects people to react to what he says differently than the principal reacted, or Ms. Holmes. One of the concerns, when you talk about what's your role? You say you're fiduciary. I say your role is basically to provide good education, which is another aspect of the Board of Education. And that's to provide the best possible education to all of the students, including Tim, unless he cannot be offered that because he is so onerous and such a problem that he can't stay here. As you have met the students, and I'm sure the principal will tell you, there are other students in the school system presently, I'm sure, who say things as bad or worse, or as problematic as worse. You start talking about, do I have discretion to do things? Every day, your administrators make discretion. If some kid says what Tim said, it's a joke. He didn't mean it. So it's within that discretion, people are going to be looking at you. Obviously, Tim has an interest in this proceeding. This board should be interested in what Tim does in the future. If he was John Dillinger, if he was beating up kids, if he was slapping teachers, that's one thing. The penalty, which is the second aspect of what do you do, as Ms. Swim indicates, that's the second. Did he do it? But I'm focusing more on, so what? You're going to expel him when he wants to leave so that he can't go to school in a regular class setting for a year. Start a speculation what could happen. He's willing to remove himself. He's offered to remove himself. You're being punitive, and you're not protecting the school district at all. I'm on the ACLU board in Lansing. They're looking at this issue. The legislature is looking at this issue. And as you can see from the material I gave you, the feds and the State Department of Education are saying school boards are being too aggressive to put kids out too early. I sit here, and there are a lot of kids I put out. There are some kids, and don't quote me, I'd slap and kick. But you're not dealing with that type of kid, and I think you'll find that out when you talk to him. If he was that type of kid, given what we've heard here, he would have been gone long ago. He was making progress, he was showing improvement. But they didn't tell you on his plans, the feedback he was getting in a month and a half that he was in that program, his grades were going up. He does not deny that he made a statement that was inappropriate for a 16-year-old, and I don't know what level he's functioning at, but a 16-year-old to make those statements, think about your own kids. I was going to ask the question now. Okay.
You made your statement, and now it's our turn to ask questions.
And I have no more chance to ask questions?
Absolutely you do.
Oh, okay. Well, ask all the questions you want.
The procedures are in front of you, and it's our opportunity to ask questions of Tim, Mrs. Stewart, yourself, the school district, or the administration, and then it's later in the agenda, you will have an opportunity for closing remarks.
I don't want to disrupt
Yes.
the process, but I was under the impression, because I had asked him if he would question the student first, and then we could ask clarifying questions. And it was my impression that he was still on the presentation of the student's position.
Yes, he did just finish that. Now,
I thought that part of him questioning the student was part of his presentation. So I just feel bad because I feel like I may have misled him or given false expectations, but that was kind of my expectation.
At this point, I'm open to that suggestion. However, I do want to make sure that we're all on the same. Are you comfortable with Mr. Spence asking the questions of the student directly and then having us ask clarifying questions after, rather than the other way around?
I defer to your judgment, Madam Chair. I'm fine with whatever you decide.
I think that was what, I think that was the understanding that the family did have, that Mr. Spence would ask the questions, and we, of course, have the opportunity to follow up with clarifying questions. So I'm fine.
Okay, well, I'm not going to ask many questions, so that's really. Tim, you know what the situation is that you're in, right?
Yes, I do.
And what do you understand that situation to be?
I understand that my behavior was, off, and it shouldn't have been that way, and that I'm here because of what I said and some of the things that I said, and I know that it was wrong.
Okay. Now, you did get mouthy with teachers
Yes.
on more than one occasion.
Yes.
Okay. And looking at the situation on May 22nd with Ms. Holmes, are you recalling that?
Yes.
Okay. What happened then, as you recall it, if you recall it?
Well, just to start from because it wasn't that long into class before it started, but it seemed like she was having a bad day, I was having a bad day, and she was just trying to get the class in order, and then she was talking to one of the kids, telling him when to, he needs to be quiet for just a amount of time or whatever, and so they were just going crazy, and in the statement it said, are you going to take that? But that's not what I said. I said, I can't take this. I'm trying to focus because she was trying to get me to focus. And I'm reading my story and I'm on the computer reading it. And then, so she just wanted to like, you can't talk. And I'm like, okay. And then so next thing I know, she gives me a detention. And then she sat it right under where my mouse was. And I never crumpled up the paper, just to be specific. I never crumpled up and threw it on the ground. She put it where my mouse was, and I had my headphones on, and I kind of just hit it off with my mouth while I was, whatever. I was upset about getting a detention, but I wasn't, being disrespectful to throw it on the ground. And then she said I got a second detention, and then that's what I found out afterwards. I didn't know that at the time, but I just had my headphones on. And so I was just like, all right, whatever, this is just frustrating. So I tried to get back to work, and later that day I found out that I was in this situation.
Well, how long did it take you to find out that you were suspended?
Till the end of the day.
And was that like 2 or 3 hours? Or?
No, that was like the whole day. And then I'm thinking, okay, I just got a detention or two, and I can just try to do that next time. I won't do that. So then I found out that my mom told me, I got a call from Mr. Girl saying, you're suspended and it's a possible expulsion. I'm like, shocked.
Okay. Ms. Holmes teaches English to you. Okay. That's the subject you like. Is she a good teacher? Okay. And you like her?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you mean to threaten her?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Why do you think she might have thought you were threatening her?
Probably just because she was having a bad day, and I guess I was angry, I was frustrated, but and the way I said it at the time, it clicked to her that she's threatening me. I sincerely did not mean for it to be anything. I didn't want her to feel that way. I don't want her to feel uncomfortable. My teacher, anybody, I don't want them to feel uncomfortable.
Were you fighting that day? Or shoving anybody? You have a problem being mouthy. Okay. Now, you told one of your teachers to get out of your face. You did that. Okay. Should you have done it? Why did you do it?
Because I was frustrated and I just wanted her to kind of just back off. Not to threaten her and get out of my face or do this, it was just kind of low right now. lot of back off. I intend for it to sound wasn't great. Just kind of, I don't want to say good or habit, because it just came out better.
Do you get angry easily?
Not often.
Do you talk like that at home to your mother? Why not? So you know that what you said was disrespectful. Now, you're 16, right? They let you take your final exam.
Just kind of, we have to remind them. My mom had to tell me, like, oh, well, I was doing so good, so what I'm going to do about my finals and stuff. So they didn't just jump to it and say I have to actually go to school and tell them that I have to go to school. Just awful.
You think you passed any of your courses? Yeah. Now, you heard me talk about going to Holt schools in the fall. Okay. Is that your expectation? Where do you live? Are you going to miss Okemos High School?
I have friends there. Most of my friends in this school.
Mr. Burrow, you get along with him? Yes. Have you ever been lippy with him that you can recall?
No, not no.
Have you ever threatened anybody? Anybody on the faculty?
Yeah, well, not intentionally. They say that I've heard.
You have said inappropriate things. You get in a lot of fights with the other student? A few.
Not physical, mostly arguing.
Yeah. You like to argue?
I like it. But just stop it.
All right, so what are your long-term goals?
Go to college, stop being mouthy, just get through this without going through any of this, just get through life and just be successful. My main goal right now is just to try to get to the next grade and not have to take another year, 20, 21 years old, graduating from high school, that's just down and embarrassing. And I don't know, I'm always like that. I want to make her proud. I got a lot of expectations.
Okay. Well, I think I've given you a chance to look at it, so I'll give you a chance to talk to him.
Thank you. Clarifying questions?
I have one question.
Student or?
I'd like to ask Mr. Stewart. So in the incident on the 22nd, were you standing or sitting?
I was sitting.
Did you ever stand up?
No.
Did you ever turn your chair around?
No. I was just facing out the computer. I was just leaning like this, and this is how I was talking to her.
And so where was the teacher when she was speaking with you, to you?
She was in the second row, like above me. She was like leaning on the other desk in front of me.
So there's a space in front, much like there is here.
Yeah,
She was standing in front of
There's
you?
a computer over here, and I could like kind of see her through the space right here. She was leaning over the other table and kind of talking to me like this, like while she was leaning on the table.
And you said to her, you better get out of my face with that?
Yeah.
Was she in your face?
No, she wasn't.
What did you mean by I'm not CJ?
What I mean by that was, I'm just saying, she was kind of just taking things out on me, and I saw her kind of seem like she was attacking me, and I'm just letting her know, I'm not CJ, don't come to me, like that. Like,
Has CJ done something wrong?
Yeah, well,
And
talking. Yeah.
CJ was also another student who was involved in whatever was going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Spence asked all of the questions that I will think about.
So on May 22nd, did you say to Ms. Holmes, you better watch yourself, you better get out of my face with that, I'm not CJ?
I do not recall saying you better watch yourself. I do recall saying you better get out of my face. I'm not CJ.
So what did you mean by you better get out of my face with that, I'm not CJ?
It was just kind of the reaction that I had. You know, she wasn't in my face. You know, I didn't mean it like literally. You know, you better get out of my face. You know, it was just she was talking and it was. You know, I was just frustrated and I said, "Get out of my face." As in, you know, I'm just frustrated. It feels like she's in my face. You know, because I'm kind of heated right now. Just need some space. And
Why were you heated?
because she was trying to get all the class together and she was just kind of, and I'm trying to focus. That's why I put my headphones on. Well, I was trying to focus and all these people just, and I'm like, I can't take this. And so she's like, and somehow it got mixed up in the paper saying, you know, oh, are you going to take that? Which, that's not what I said. And so I just put my headphones on and said, I can't take this. And, you know, and she started talking, and every now and again I, like, take one ear out, and she looked like she was talking to me or directing something toward me. I heard her say, you got a detention. And I'm like, okay. And I was just frustrated after that because I felt like I wasn't really doing anything.
In November, approximately November 24th, I don't remember the exact date, but that's what it says here on this piece of paper.
Yeah.
Did you say to Ms. Holmes, if you don't stop talking, I will embarrass you and make you cry in front of this class. You better get out of my face right now.
I do recall that situation. I'm pretty sure, I'd say that, yeah.
Do you consider that to be a threat?
That would be a threat.
And on a previous occasion to that, did you say to Ms. Holmes, if you don't get out of my face right now, I'll... And then I guess you were interrupted?
That's so short. I don't even remember saying that. Yeah.
Or in response to her saying, maybe I'll say the whole conversation here. What it says on this piece of paper is that you said, if you don't get out of my face right now, I'll. And then she apparently interrupted you and asked if you were threatening her, and you said, oh, it don't gotta be a threat.
I wouldn't call that.
You don't recall that?
No, I wouldn't call it. But I mean, it's on there, so it most likely happened, but I don't recall that.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
So then, Florida Rodriguez raised, I think, an important point here. So November 24 was the English teacher, which is Miss Holmes, the same teacher. The same teacher, November 24, 2013, as May 22nd. I'm sorry, November 24 November 2013 is the same teacher as 22 May 2014.
Yeah.
Why have you had problems with that teacher?
Well, sometimes, I mean, Miss Holmes is pretty cool, but sometimes she's just a little naggy. Like, and just, you know, like I'm doing my work, you know, she comes over. I don't mind, you know, when she, you know, trying to redirect me if I'm talking or something, but if I'm actually working and then she's like, you know, this and that, and, you know, like I said, these days, if you look at the dates, like, they seem pretty far apart, so every now and again, I'll just have a day and, you know, third hour is not, I'm just, I don't know, I just have my days, and then somehow it just ends up with her because she can be real naggy, and I don't get along with like naggy people, you know, just in my ear a lot. So I guess that's one reason why it just kept happening with her, because no other teacher would just, you know, nag some every now and again, but not like that.
You were in your chair and there was a table between the two of you?
Yeah. And computer.
Did she ever approach you directly?
Only to hand me the detention notice.
Did she come in front of you or behind you?
She came in front of me.
And she handed you the detention?
Yeah.
I thought you said she said it on your mouse.
Yeah, no, she came under, and it was like under my mouth, and my mouth slid over it, and when I pushed it, I guess it just kind of fell off. I saw the paper go down, and I saw her pick it up, and then I took my earphone off, and she was saying something. I was like, "What?" And then she was like, "That's another detention." Okay. But she was leaning over here, and she wrote something down, and then she handed me the detention, and then went back to me behind the paper.
Now, sure, this is very long. This student intervention record is very long, and there's another piece here, the Howard School piece. There's an awful lot here. You got into a fight. You got into a fight with someone at one point when you got off of a bus. You got off of a bus and were involved in a fight, sort of physical altercation, where you jumped on a student's back, attempted to punch him but weren't tall enough or something like that.
This.
What date is that, Mr. Sharp? Is that recently?
That's junior high.
Oh, that's junior high. Oh, so this dates back, I guess. Well,
I never did. I haven't done nothing like that.
The high school stuff would start here on 9/20/2012.
I see. So this includes junior high.
They probably just ran the whole Howard School.
And so this dates back, I guess so, 2009.
Yeah.
Oh,
But the high school stuff goes to here. So it's basically 1.5 years.
High school will begin on 9/20/2000.
I didn't realize that this dated back to. Okay. So have you had any physical altercations in high school?
I had one specific, like where we actually were not fought for, but it was, I guess the girl said it was with a girl, I'm ashamed to say, but it was just kind of like she was hitting me, and then I know not to hit girls, and she was just hitting me, and so I had my hands in my pocket even to show, that I wasn't going to hit her back, but she, hit me pretty hard in my face, and so I kind of just threw, and my arms were long, so I kind of just threw like a quick punch to just keep her away from me, and then it landed. I didn't mean to do that.
Why was she hitting me?
I can't remember the exact argument we were having. She just kind of just went off and started doing, like, oh, you said this, and just started hitting me in my face.
Were you suspended for that?
Yeah.
Well, I would ask you to straighten. Mr. Farrell, was the other student suspended for that?
I don't recall. Typically, when we have equal interaction like that, then both students are held accountable for it. But I don't recall that. I mean, I recall the incident. I never recall